Good evening, everyone. My name is Takiwa Smith. I'm founder and executive director of Science, Engineering, Mathematics Link Incorporated, also known as SCM Link, and I want to welcome you to our virtual Teen Science Cafe. Sorry, let me fix my glasses. The Teen Science Cafe is a program of our Math and Science Career Academy whose goal is to expose teens to various STEM career paths by providing them with an opportunity to meet, interact, view online a member of the STEM community, and learn in detail about their career, as much as you can do in an hour, right? About their career journey, their current work, and get an idea of what they do. And so we decided to focus on teens with this event because this particular program, because your teenage years are a critical time in your K through 12 academic growing up experience when you're starting to make decisions about what you can do when you grow up. And it's bigger than just a dream. You can actually take actionable steps that will determine your post-secondary educational options, whether you need to know, get a certification, whether you need a 4-year degree, whether you need graduate school, whether you need a professional degree. All of these things, you can start this path in middle and high school. So if you're in middle and high school, this can allow you to know what middle school, I'm sorry, this can let you know what out of school time clubs to participate, what things you want to do in the weekends. If you want to go to a magnet school in high school, and if you're in high school, it allows you to know what summer internships you would take, what college programs, what you want to major in, and any other out of school time things you can do in order to set your path for whatever your post graduation opportunities will be, whether it's college, technical school, a certificate program. But we do this so that you can chart your path, because when you get in on the college campus or community college campus or technical college campus, we hope that this program allows you to make decisions about what you're going to do so you can start charting your career path from day one stepping on that campus. So this month's topic is a new topic, like in one of the newer STEM fields, but it is one of what I think is the most exciting because it covers so much of our lives, and people with various educational attainment levels engage in this career path, and it's data science. I mean, I know people that are in this field that just have a certificate. I know people that are in this field that have a PhD. I know people in this field that do coding. I know people in this field that do interdisciplinary projects. And so I am so excited that we have someone in one of the newer STEM fields that is growing and changing and has so many things. I think that if you have a interest in certain things, you can find a job role in data science that aligns with that. And so I'm going to introduce today's speaker. Miss Lauren Brown was born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee, where she grew up entrenched in HBCU culture as both of her parents graduated from Tennessee State University. She earned a BS in mathematics from Tennessee State in 2004 and a Master's of Arts in Teaching with a concentration in mathematics education from Georgia State University in 2012. She's held various education positions ranging from substitute teacher to mathematics professor at Georgia State University. She has a big data and analytics certificate from Emory University, which helped her gain her current position as a data analyst for Home Depot. Ms. Brown seeks balance in all aspects of her life. Therefore, with so much work, there must be an equal amount of play. When she is not caring for her 3 young children in Stone Mountain, she loves to travel to quench her thirst for knowledge from around the world, and her passion is sharing how STEM has been influential in her life and given her freedom and flexibility. one of the things I'm looking forward to talking, you talking about your talk, is this BS in mathematics, right? Because I'm an engineer, right? My math
Okay.
courses were stuff I had to take, you know,
Right.
as a pathway for my engineering course. But I'm like, I'm always like wanting to hear the journey of people that got a math degree. I'm like, y'all are special, brilliant people. So without further ado, I am gonna go away and let Miss Brown, Lauren Brown, share with you her journey, her career path, her HBCU experience. Because I'm a FAMU alum. We used to play y'all a lot.
Oh boy. Okay. I didn't know. I don't know that I would have signed on for this. Had I known, Rattler.
um, and her current work that she does as a data analysis. Thank you so much, Lauren. I'm gonna let your presentation up, okay? And I'm gonna go away and bring give you all Miss Brown.
All right. Thank you so much, Takiwa. So, the topic for today is just this using STEM to get the bag. And when I say the bag, I mean money. So, she talked about me getting a Bachelor of Science in Math from Tennessee State. And I remember my advisor saying, you don't have to be a teacher, you can do other things. And I knew that there were other things that I could do. I just didn't know how to get there. And that was the main problem. I did not know how to become the person who makes the meteorology forecast. I did not know how to code. And even though I took coding classes, I really didn't take them seriously. And I remember kind of liking them, but not really being into them and feeling like this is just my CS elective. Let me just get through it. Now I wish I would have paid way more attention. So again, my name is Lauren Brown and I work for Home Depot and I love it. So I'm a data analyst, and you will hear people use the term data analyst and data scientist interchangeably, but we are two different people. We do two different things. A data scientist does way more with the data wrangling and cleaning. A data analyst does do data cleaning as well, but we are more on the side that will make your graphs and things of that nature. But we'll get further into what I do in just a few moments. So, we have a few goals for today. I want you to walk away knowing what STEM stands for, discover STEM careers, and figure out how STEM plus you equals the bag. So, if you would, please go to Poll Everywhere. And you can do that on the web, on your phone, or via text. So you can go to pollev, so POLLEV.com, and enter Lauren, LAUREN, Brown, BROWN 210. Or you can text Lauren Brown 210 to the number 22333. I'll leave this up here for just a moment. I know that's quite a bit of information. So, why do I have you logging into Poll Everywhere? Well, because we are going to generate some data. So, my first question for you in Poll Everywhere is, what does STEM stand for? Do you know? I'll give you a hint. It's four things. Right now, I don't have any responses, so I'm hoping we're just taking our time to answer. Give it your best go, give it your best guess. Ah, well, there it is. Yes, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So I started here in mathematics. Again, I have a mathematics degree, and I have made the transition to technology. So I'm still within the STEM family, but just a different part. So now my next question in Poll Everywhere, since we know what STEM stands for, in one word, what do you think of when you think of STEM? One word, what do you think of when you think of STEM? I don't want to take away anyone's answers, but I think of biology, for instance, chemistry, of course, mathematics, because that's my baby. But even within math, there are other things, there are other subjects within math, like algebra, pre-calculus, geometry. These are all things that I think of when I think of STEM. So here's where we can talk about what it is that I do. So, once again, I'm a data analyst. So, part of my job is that when I don't know something, I need to go find out what it means. And a lot of times that means using Google to figure out that place that has the information that I need. So, I would like for you to go to Google and first Google what is a data analyst. After you do that, I want you to also Google what is the starting salary for a data analyst. So Google is pretty fast. So let's take a look. What is a data analyst? I know you can read the screen, so I'll leave that part to you. But for the most part, I collect, as I said, I clean data and I interpret that data to make things that are very technical less technical. And like Takiwa said, data is everywhere. If you have a cell phone, you're generating data. If you use a computer, you're generating data. Even if you've ordered food, you've generated data. So you can find a career in almost any industry, which is another thing that I love about being a data analyst. I get to work with a company that also aligns with my values. And a lot of us in IT tend to work for companies that align with our personal values and beliefs. So the first definition for a data analyst, I believe that came from Career Foundry, which is a good place, a good resource for career information. The next is a little bit more detailed information from Coursera, which, if you're not familiar, this is a place where you can earn one of those certificates that Takiwa was talking about. And again, it's really important in these years, especially in high school, you actually could get a certificate in high school and come out of high school, still be in high school and get a job in IT as long as you meet the requirements. So again, what is data analysis? Identifying, collecting, cleaning, analyzing, and interpreting the data. And that's that part, the interpreting the data, that's really important. So the next thing that I asked you to Google was the starting salary based on experience. So again, I think I received this information from Coursera. And you see that you can start with less than a year of experience making around 57,000. Now, remind you, this does depend on where you live, etc. But I can tell you from personal experience that many data analysts start making more than this amount. So once again, this is how we get to the bag. Being able to have financial freedom and flexibility is a way of life that is very hard to describe. It gives you a freedom, being able to breathe in a way that you can't do if you're worried about money all the time. So now it's time for us to create some more data. So we're going to go back to Poll Everywhere, and I'm going to start just by asking what grade you're in. So right now, I just want to know numerically, or I have you choose what grade are you in, and then we also have the option for I'm not in K through 12 if we have others tuning in. All right, to the next question. How many piercings do you have? And I remember being in high school working on data, and we got to choose our own questions to generate data with. And so that's why I think this is an interesting question. Um, I have a variety of interests, and piercings are a little bit of that. So let's see, how many piercings do we have? Moving on to our next question. How do you feel? Even your feelings generate data. So whenever you do a survey and they ask, how do you feel about your experience here? Whether you are happy, mad, or sad, or whether you are a red face angry, or if you're a green face happy, all of that is still generating data because there is someone behind the scenes that will make a gorgeous graph for you based off of people's answers to these questions. Last question, which this one is probably my favorite. Who are the top 3 artists that you are listening to right now? Who are the top 3 artists that you are listening to right now? Again, when I was a math professor, one of the things that I used to do would be to play music at the beginning of class as students were coming in. I found that it helped to comfort me and it helped to comfort the students as well, especially on test days. So now that you know a little bit more about data analysis and what a data analyst does, what questions do you have? And you can either enter them in the comments, or I've even done a nice, cool thing through Poll Everywhere where you can submit your questions there as well. But I think for the purpose of the recording, I think Takiwa wants the questions to be in the comments.
They can do whichever. So whatever is comfortable for them. So they can do it in the poll or in the comments.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, Takiwa, I know you had some questions for me as well. Would you like to jump in?
Sure, we can jump in. So, you had said something earlier about although like there is this broad data science, right, and data analysis falls into that. There's a difference. Like, what
Right.
is the major difference in does that impact um, like the education or the certification that you need to do different roles?
That's an excellent question. And yes, um, they are being a data analyst is so very close to being a data scientist. The main difference that I would say is that data scientists tend to do, to me, more scientific things, such as creating programs that use machine learning or artificial intelligence.
Mm.
They tend to do programming that leads to automation. And although I automate processes, I do it in a different way. I just attended a conference where it was a data science conference, and I could tell these are not my people. Not these are not my people, but again, I understood the lingo in the room, but it wasn't what I do every day.
So, what are the type of projects that you do every day, or projects that you would do, or people who want to be a an analyst would do? Sorry.
So I would suggest using SQL, and you will, it's not spelled out as like a sequel for a movie. You'll see three letters,
Mm.
SQL. So instead of saying SQL, we pronounce that as SQL. It's an abbreviation for structured query language.
Mm.
Query, we do, that's all that we do. We do a lot of queries to get to the bottom of a question. So if you have a question for me, so specifically, I work in HR at Home Depot. So if you wanted to know specific information about, let's say, your job application with Home Depot, if I know your name or some information, I can go pinpoint that information out of hundreds of thousands of applications simply with a code. I say simply, but I had up on my screen the code that I was working on today, and like in Notepad, it took up the whole screen. So
So it's simple, but it's not simple. Like it's simple.
yes, that's exactly how I feel. And I feel like every day, which this is a beautiful thing to me though. Every day I wake up knowing I'm going to be challenged. But every day I beat that challenge. And even today, I didn't get to finish beating the challenge, but tomorrow that's the goal. Um, you asked about projects that I would recommend for people to do. The other thing I would suggest is figuring out a visualization tool that you like. Pick one, go with it. So usually the top two players, there's a third player, but I forgot its name. The top two that I know of are Microsoft's Power BI and Tableau by Salesforce. Most enterprise, well, I can't say most. I can speak for what I do, and what I will be doing over the next week or so is building dashboards in Tableau. And when I tell you, I'm so excited to play in Tableau. I know I probably seem so geeky, but I love Tableau. That's where you make all the cool graphs, all the cool infographics. Those things come from Tableau. But I can't do anything in Tableau if I have not gotten my data in a format for Tableau to do what it does. So that's also a part of my job, and that's a part of the coding that I do.
Okay, so you said visualization tools. I'm sorry, I've been
Yes,
traveling.
I understand. I do.
um, what does that mean? Like you use example, but like break it down. Like what is that? Like
So I love using the example of Explained from Netflix.
okay.
Um, are you familiar with that at all?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so on Explained, they talk about what we would consider some topics are complicated, and they make them so not complicated. And part of their method is by using these infographics. So I recommend that everyone look at least one episode of Explained to see what I'm talking about, so
Mhm.
that you can see the visuals that you are able to be produced, that are able to be produced.
Okay, so visualization tools is just a way for us to see the data without
Yes.
looking at all the code that you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And by looking at the data, you are able to draw insights. And so it's up to people like me to look at the data and then start asking questions. Or sometimes our client will come to us with a question. So we might look at the data, but this data doesn't make sense or it may be dirty. So it has to be cleaned, like I said, put into a format so that I can nicely deliver a beautiful package to my client that is very simple to understand.
Okay, so the visualization tools take all of that code that you do and put it to something appealing that explains the code. So
Yeah.
we're not looking at your whole code or just something in a Word document.
And especially working for the corporate part of Home Depot, I'm
Mhm.
not in the store.
Okay.
So even though I generate reports that are going to someone who doesn't have the time to say, "Oh, well, what is the question here? What is the problem here? What do I need to do?" Da, 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 da. They don't have the time for that. They want to be able to look at a graph and say, what's the issue. They can answer all those questions with a glance
Mhm.
versus needing to read through paragraphs of information. That's my job.
Okay, that makes sense. So I'm going to ask a question that goes way, way back, right?
Okay.
So when you were growing up, like we talked about in your bio about growing up in the HBCU culture.
Mhm.
But what made you major in math? Like, were you interested in STEM growing up? Did you participate in STEM programs? Were your family STEM professionals? Like, how did you get that interest in your journey to majoring in math?
Well, going to Tennessee State has an awesome engineering program. And we also have great summer programs. So my mother got me involved with the summer programs. And I will admit that piqued my interest in engineering because in seventh grade, I was solving civil engineering problems. And it blew my mind that I could do that in the seventh grade, and I'm sitting here with people in high school and I'm the youngest person in the room, like, well, okay. We also did things where I forgot which form of engineering this is, where you may crush some concrete to see how much pressure it can take. We got to do that. I mean, so being exposed to engineering, I think that helped some. Then, insofar as my interest in math, it kind of came the hard way. Math was actually hard for me. I needed a tutor for algebra. I needed a tutor to learn how to tell time. But because it was harder for me, I had to take my time, write everything out, and really understand what's happening. And I always wanted to be a teacher. And what I found is that I could explain things to people really easily. These really complex math things, I was able to say, oh, all you're doing is this. And the more people I did that with, the more people were like, really? That's all we have to do? And I'm like, yeah, that's it. And even again, my teachers started to recognize that, oh, it's okay if y'all are talking because I know that you're explaining something to them right now.
Mhm. That's great. Um,
And I'm sorry, you did ask if my parents were
mhm,
professionals. My dad does have a biology degree.
mhm,
Um, and he did environmental engineering.
mhm,
Again, what he did was go out. He worked for the Department of Transportation, or TDOT, Tennessee Department of Transportation, and he would be one of the people that would go out to make sure that the ground was sturdy enough to support a road, to support a structure. And I never thought about it until now that, oh, that was STEM related.
mhm. The other question that I have is like, what was your journey as a math major as you matriculated through Tennessee State? Like, how was classes? Did you do study groups? Did you do any internships?
So, unfortunately, I didn't do internships, but I was always able to participate in a variety of summer programs. So some paid, some didn't. Um, So my time at TSU was busy. um, my very first semester, I didn't know any better. I signed up for 18 hours. And I don't recommend that for anyone. I would say a maximum of 15 as a full time student. Um, but of course, the courses got more challenging. And from the beginning, I started with calculus. I started in Cal 1. And I will admit that in calculus, pre-cal finally made sense because during pre-cal, it did not make sense. I still to this day, I'm like, pre-cal by itself does not make sense. But once I got in calculus, I was like, oh, this is where that unit circle came into play. Got it. This is why I need to know that 30, 60, 90, that 45, 45, 90. Oh, that root over two. Got you. Now I understand. It all came together. But I definitely did not do it alone. I definitely had to work with other people. And that's one thing I highly recommend. Even when I was a professor, I told my students don't work alone, and don't struggle alone. Because I definitely was one of those people that worked on a problem until I cried. So now I even have a rule of if I'm working on something and I'm not able to get it done in about 30 minutes, I take a break so that way I don't get overly frustrated. I don't burn my wheels.
So my question is, like, you've been a teacher, you've done math. Like, what piqued your interest in data analysis?
I have to credit one of my friends who was getting her master's in health informatics, which I never knew that was a thing. So again, there are all these spaces where data is. I've heard someone say something else informatics. It wasn't health informatics, but it was something else that I said, oh my gosh, that's another data analysis job. Had no clue. And so she had been working in it for a couple of years. And her thing to me was, you have a math background, you can do this. And she's not wrong. If with having this math background, the computer science stuff or the programming things, if you will, they come naturally to me. They run parallel to me. Like in SQL, there's something called a join. Well, the way that they visually represent it is with a Venn diagram. It makes perfect sense to me. When I look at that, I understand exactly what I'm looking at. I understand that I'm joining this piece of data with this piece of data, or only these two, where the two pieces of data overlap. It makes perfect sense to me.
Okay, so outside of schoolwork, because you did attend to HBCU, what
Mhm.
are the things that you did that were fun when you were taking study breaks from classes or you weren't in class?
You know what? I met new people. I played with my friends, if you will.
Mm,
I remember. So part of going to college, part of the to me, part of the fun part was how you decorated your room and how
mm,
you decorated your bed, right? So I had all these stuffed animals and I think, oh, Mickey Mouse sheets, for most of the time that I was there. And then I transitioned and included, I went from Mickey Mouse to smiley faces. But again, like that's a really big deal. You know, how your bed is like cool. And it also got me in the habit of making up my bed. Oddly enough, I learned to make up or I started making up my bed more regularly once I went to college because I had a roommate and I didn't want to have the room that was the messy side. Um, so I hung out with people from other places. A lot of us were still STEM people, but not everybody was. Like again, I had a friend that her mom worked with my dad. So we became friends. Um, I also was, I think, a part of the pep club. So I mean, like almost all the freshmen, well, not all the freshmen, but a lot of us that weren't, actively doing something else, we were in the pep club. So you would go to the games, the football games, the basketball games, things like that. You would go together. So you weren't really alone.
okay. So this is my, final question. Like, so you started data analysis as a career change. But
Yes.
if someone is listening, a teen is listening, they're like, I want to do that now. What
Hmm.
are the things that you think that steps that they could take to pursue that career?
Well, I have to automatically, say self learning. That
Mhm.
is really the key because in this industry, you will always be learning more. You will always need to be willing to teach yourself. You will always need to be willing to go look something up yourself. So I think having the characteristic of a lifelong learner is number one. Number two, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. So know that going into it. But again, take those breaks. And again, don't try to do this by yourself. There are lots of organizations out there, for instance, for women, women of color, um, and people of color that specifically have learning groups. And I know for women who code, their part of their thing is we are a committed community of learners, and that's big because it's easy to say I want to make this change, but what are you willing to put into it to make that change happen? And that's where the rubber meets the road. So you can do lots of different programs. They abound. You have Data Camp, you have Udemy, Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, which by the way is free with a library card. I just want to say that one more time.
Oh,
LinkedIn Learning is free with a library card. I haven't done it for myself just because I've been so busy, but yes, and that's an excellent resource. And again, LinkedIn is something that you want to use. That's something else I would actually recommend. Going ahead and start networking with people who are in the field because they will be posting things that will be informational.
that is so great. It was. Well, I do have one more. What are the industries that hire data analysts? I'm sorry.
I would rather I hate to ask a question to answer a question, but really and truly it's more like what industry doesn't use data.
No.
It's really that rampant. It's really everywhere. I mean, hospitals generate data. Obviously, we're in a pandemic. We generate data from our cell phones. Like, if I didn't get this job, my other dream job is to be a geospatial data analyst. I know it sounds so cool because, again, think about your cell phone. Think about the fact that we mostly have on our location settings. Where do you think that's going to? How do you know? How is Google able to tell you when a place is busy or not? How
Mm-hmm.
is Waze able to tell you where traffic is? Even your departments of transportation are using cell phone data to find out where do we have a lot of people right now.
But
Any
that's how they do the 511 signs, right? That tells you is this red. That's data analyst
That's
help do.
data. There is a data analyst somewhere back there. I guarantee it.
Oh wow! Now that you think about it,
I mean, we're
say that, huh?
everywhere. We are everywhere. And I remember, so I have very strange interests, such as studying volcanoes and earthquakes and tornadoes.
Mhm.
And my mother very politely said, "Why don't you go work for the National Hurricane Center?"
Mhm.
Again, same thing. How
Mhm.
do you think they make those spaghetti plots? There's a data analyst, baby. That's who's helping them do that.
Ooh, thank you. So, any words of wisdom? Because your talk is like using STEM to make a bag, get in the bag. So, are there any like words of final words of wisdom that you want to share about, that connection of how majoring in STEM gets you the quote unquote bag?
Absolutely. So, For one, Google STEM positions. Just Google STEM jobs. I would
Mm-hmm.
tell someone to Google STEM jobs and look, or better yet, Google like highest paying jobs, top 50 paying jobs. Outside of being a lawyer or a doctor, which again, doctor still falls under STEM. That is medical, that is biology, that is chemistry. And again, there's math that plays into that as well. Um, but outside of that, a lot of those careers, STEM, a lot of them are STEM based, and that's where people miss the mark. And
Mm-hmm.
I've seen so many people be scared of the math, so they're just like, I'll do anything else but something that requires math. Well, anything in STEM for the most part is going to require math. But what is it? Anything worth having is worth working for. So put in that work, and I guarantee you it'll earn you those red bottoms. I have 3 and a backpack.
Well, thank you so much, Lauren, for letting us know so much about your path, data analysis, and knowing that this is a career path that people can take. And most importantly, you can align it with whatever you're interested in. It's not like one of
Yes.
those that are in the box. Like you can take multiple paths,
Yes.
ways, work in multiple fields. Also thank you for showing the success of an HBC alum, right? Sometimes people say things about people with HBCU degrees, and we get great educations and go on to do great things. And so, thank you for taking your time to talk about your career and STEM in the bag. So, just one housekeeping thing, I am putting in the chat a survey. So, be sure to take a few minutes to complete that survey. The survey allows our evaluator to collect data.
As I said.
Data is everywhere, right? Everywhere. It's so funny. I have a mentor that says STEM is everywhere, right? Data is everywhere. That's what we have learned from this. Data is
Yes.
everywhere.
And I
Collect
do
data. Mm-hmm.
want to chime in on the piece that you said about people thinking that HBCU degrees are less than. Are they really less than for the VEEP? Are they?
Mm-hmm.
Let's ask that question for just a moment. And I can admit falling into that trap myself. And even a friend of mine, he got to go to JPL. If you don't know, that is NASA's
Mm-hmm.
Jet Propulsion Lab. And he was, I think, one of 2 Black students. And I think he might have been the only student from an HBCU. And he said, when I came to them, I thought I didn't know as much as everyone else. Come to find out, he's the smartest one in the room. The point is, imposter syndrome is a real thing. And it really tends to exist with people of color and women. And again, if you're going to an HBCU, you tend to be a person of color. So it is very easy to believe that your degree is less than. No, 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 no. Your degree is everything. Just like a degree from Georgia State is the same as a degree from UGA, is the same as a degree from Spelman. The only difference is that if your hiring manager went to your school,
Mm-hmm.
you're just a little bit more likely. But again, that's a part of your network, and that's what you're supposed to do. That is a part of networking, and that is the beauty of being a part of an HBCU or being a part of the HBCU family.
Mm-hmm.
I attended my alumni association meeting last night. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Again, I know what we're doing. I know what the Atlanta HBCU Alliance is doing to a certain degree,
Mm-hmm.
but you're a part of a special family. It's like
Mm-hmm.
being a part of a fraternity or a sorority. When you go to an HBCU, that makes you special
Mm-hmm.
in a great way.
It does. I mean, I can tell. So my career success is because of my fellow FAMU alum. Like, we all have stories as HBCU alum of, the bond, the support that, especially people of color don't always get unless, if they go to a PWI. Some of them get it, but it just is not the same as, and you see some PWIs try to create that HBCU culture, and it's like, You can't create it. You're just not as hostile to Black people and people of color, but
You just
it's
created
still a
some
vibe.
organizations and some safe places, which again, I
It's
think those are
important.
all positive moves. Those are
Hmm.
all good things. I'm not going to knock it.
Yeah.
But there is nothing, the way I used to put it to people was there's nothing like looking around and seeing a sea of you,
Hmm.
seeing your Miss TSU be a Black woman, seeing your Mr. TSU be a Black man, seeing your SGA be all successful Black students. There is something about that that you cannot get anywhere else
Hmm.
except an HBCU.
Thank you. So we are going to close on that note. Think HBCU.
Yes.
Take time to complete the survey. And thank you again so much, Lauren, for making time to teach us about data analysis. And most importantly, like it's one of those fields in STEM that you can find a career path that matches your interest in data science, data analysis, and your interest in other things, right? So you just match your interest with the
Yeah.
industry you want to work with.
And I did completely forget to mention most of the positions are remote and pay close to six figures. So, and that's just you starting.
Mhm.
That's just you starting. So I can't put it any clearer than that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I want to thank Lauren again for joining us. I want to thank you all that are joining us live or will catch it on our YouTube channel, Facebook page. This is the first cafe we're doing on LinkedIn, so I don't know if LinkedIn has a rebroadcast or not, but
It does
thank you.
record. You can have a recording
You
later.
have recording. Okay. Well, thank you so much. We hope that you learned and we have encouraged some future data analysis from this cafe. Have a great evening or the rest of your day, and we will see you at the next SCM Link event. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay abreast of our program activities.